Coraline is a 2009 animated film written and directed by Henry Selick based on the 2002 Neil Gaiman novel. And features the voices of Dakota Fanning, Teri Hatcher, John Hodgman, Jennifer Saunders, Don French, Ian McShane, and Keith David. It uses the stop-motion animation style, one of my personal favorites, actually, and is the first feature to come out of the Oregon-based company Leica Studios. This is actually a reminder for me to catch up on their stuff. I remember really liking Paranorman back in 2012. And on that note, has anyone seen Wendell and Wild? This looks interesting to me. So the plot follows a young girl discovering a mysterious alternate universe through a doorway in the new house her family just moved to. So, Neil Gaiman, the creator, wanted Henry Selick to direct Coraline since he was a big fan. Selick directs pretty much exclusively stop-motion animated films. Maybe not exclusively, but that's what he's kind of known for. And he's done stuff like The Nightmare Before Christmas and James and the Giant Peach. Selick wanted Coraline to look unique, so he actually found Tadahiro Yasugi, a Japanese illustrator, and he hired him to be the concept artist, which was a really cool move, if you ask me. The story begins with Coraline and her parents moving into an old apartment in Ashland, Oregon. They came from Pontiac, Michigan, but you don't ever see them there. Now, there are a lot of opinions on the story here. Some people think it's incredibly complex and have theories on what they think this film is about. And I find them all very interesting, and honestly, most of them make a lot of sense to me. But I think my take on it is probably not surprising to anybody, but the more simple take, I think. The story is very, very well written. A huge part of why this movie has already been a cult classic at this point for years. There are a lot of intricacies in the story, and that's what makes it so fun. That's part of what makes it so fun. It's just so full of details, but the undertone or overall, message, to me is more along the lines of, something pretty simple. Which is that if you're fortunate enough to have a decent life, take some time to appreciate that, even, during the harder times. And in this film, Coraline, resents her parents for making her move, which a lot of us can relate to, I think. But she also resents them because they're so busy with moving and rushing, to meet work deadlines, and they don't really seem to be able to, make much time for Coraline. And she's a kid, and kid needs time. Kids need time, and they need attention and stuff like that. And, I've seen people kind of link this to, darker undertones, I think, like child abuse or neglect. I think that's a little bit of a stretch. I mean, like, her parents, to me, they don't seem abusive. I know neglect is a form of abuse, but also, I mean, I don't get the impression that they're neglectful all the time. Like, they just moved. So anyways, I don't really buy into that, but it is an interesting theory. So, the apartment that they live in is almost like a character of its own. The Pink Palace Apartments, it's called. It's actually they say it's a 150-year-old Victorian-style house split up into like several apartment units in which all of the characters in this film either live in or are attached to in some way. So that's very cool. As a contrast to Coraline and her parents being, your average kind of middle-class Americans, the other Pink Palace tenants bring a more like fantastical feel. You have a blue gymnast who runs a mouse circus and used to be a Chernobyl liquidator. Yeah, look that one up. I know I had to. And two retired burlesque dancers. Coraline also reluctantly befriends the grandson of the landlady of the Pink Palace, and he has a pretty big part in the way that the story plays out, actually. Things take a turn for the weird when she goes through a portal she discovers in the apartment walls and enters a kind of like a new world, an other world, you could call it. A world that looks almost identical to ours, more, maybe more vibrant and colorful. A world that Coraline, a world that looks like maybe something that Coraline wishes her own reality looked like. And all of the same people are there, only with buttons sewn over their eyes. Coraline's parents here are much more attentive, but something feels not quite right with them. maybe this place is not at all what it appears to be, you know? And Coraline can travel back to her own reality just by falling asleep, so she is able to bounce back between the two worlds. But eventually she finds herself in the position where her world and this other world collide, and she has to find a way to undo, you know, what has been done. I just love this film. I always have, literally since the first time I saw it back when it came out in 2009. It might just be my favorite animated film ever. That's debatable, but it might be. If you're a fan of like A Nightmare Before Christmas and you know you haven't seen this, like it's literally just been waiting for you. This is your new favorite movie, I think. It's a good entry level movie, you know, as like a gateway to horror. You know, people of all ages, for the most part, can enjoy it. I think, I don't know, you know, really, really young kids, this might be a little creepy for them, but, you know, that's up to you as the parent, I guess. You know, the characters are all super fun and complex. You know, some that I didn't even really name, like the many Scottish Terriers of the burlesque dancer neighbors, and the black cat that can talk when Coraline is in the other world, voiced by the great Keith David. I do get some Alice in Wonderland vibes. I feel that as a pretty strong influence. Maybe James and the Giant Peach, stuff like that. But this film is, in my opinion, far from derivative. You know, the soundtrack by French composer Bruno Collet is next level fucking awesome. And on that note, ended up winning the 2009 Annie Award for Best Score for an Animated Feature. Check out the jazzy track, what's it called? Fantastic Garden. That's probably my favorite track of the whole album. It's so cool. So I'm giving Coraline a fucking 10 out of 10, man. It's just a complete stop motion masterpiece. I have no criticism for it. There's nothing I could add that you know, that could improve it, or I don't have any criticism. I just love it. Yeah, I've really got nothing. With this film, you know, you're pretty much dropped into a fantastical world of endless imagination. It's classy, it's busy, it's colorful, and at times perfectly creepy. Cheers, guys, and I'll see you at the multiplex.